that was crazy, man. That was 1971, 72. I mean, it was that long ago. And, just in watching the video of this guy getting choked out with the officer who has his knee on his neck, and he's saying, I mean, I just felt like going through the TV and pushing him, just get off the guy's neck. I mean, this was life or death.
Right.
And I got stopped in those days in the 70s. And, not only was it a nervous time because, you didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but the ridiculousness of it. And, asking me, where do I work?
Right.
Why do I have a nice car? Whatever, you're not stopping me. That's not a reason to stop anybody. Ask them where they work or if they have a nice car. And that was truth be told. And so this has been a problem in our society for a long time. And, so the rioting and the looting and all that kind of stuff, that just goes in hand with people who are opportunists trying to take advantage of a situation and doing bad things during that time. But it's not anything new. It's not anything new. I mean, when I was in high school, I just had a couple of fellow students who were teenagers, either get shot or, get hurt unjustly from, getting roughed up or whatever. So it's a epidemic, and it's in our society, and I hate to see it be encouraged and fed. And unfortunately, a lot of things that are being fed by people in high places.
Take you back. I didn't mean it's such a heavy topic, but again, like I said, I know you went through that in reading your book and getting to know you over the years. But speaking of that time when you mentioned high school, and this is a lot more fun and light, and that is you and your friends would get in a car and travel around New York City and find games in different parks. And obviously at Rucker Park, you became kind of famous, and that helped launch your career. But that joy of going to find the best competition and all being together. And I know you talked about that and really think back on that 52 some odd years ago with a joy when you remember how that was for you guys.
Yeah. As a teenager, the first time I played in Rucker Park was after I signed with the Virginia Squires. I had never played in that park before, so I was already 21 years old when I played in Rucker Park. But I played in Brooklyn, played in the Bronx, played in Queens, and played in Long Island. And me, a guy named Robert Mayrant, a guy named Lenny Carter, Odell Curidan, and Leon Saunders, the guy who named me the doctor, and I named him the professor. Man, we used to get in the car, and either my car or Robert's car or Leon's car, and we'd go look for basketball games. We used to, from Long Island, we'd go to Queens because, we kind of exhausted what was happening in Nassau County. We knew where all the good parks were, and we wanted more. And I think when you want more, you get more. So ironically, one story, if I can, we used to go there. We had, T-shirts. So T-shirts might say something about where we're from, but it just might have numbers on them, right? And we went into Queens, and we started playing full court basketball. And at the end of the round, the guy said, "Man, you guys, before y'all go back to Brooklyn, let's exchange shirts." When I said Brooklyn, we're not from Brooklyn, we're from Long Island. And then they were so upset because they were like, guys from Long Island beat us? We thought y'all was from Brooklyn.
Right.
So we exchanged the shirts anyway, and then we went back to Long Island. So it wasn't about geography, but there was a perception that, if you're from an urban environment, you play better and that you are better. And that was an eye-opener for us too, Because here we were getting recognized by somebody who was closer to the hub of the game, you know, New York City,
Right.
than we were, and they thought we were from there.
One thing I liked, and we're going to get into your time with the Sixers and the '83 championships and changing the game a little bit. But again, going back to a little bit about your early years in basketball, was whether it was going to UMass or trying out for the 1972 Olympic team, where just to that point right there, what you just said, where you were finding out where you fit, and like, oh my, maybe my talents do fit into this level. But you had a humble approach where in the end you became one of the greatest basketball players our game has ever known. But at the beginning, you were trying to inch your way in there and figure out where your talents fit in. Speak to that.
Yeah, you know, Tom, I hope that I've been humble through the whole journey, because, you know, for me, and my mentors told me this and encouraged this, you know, try to leave the game in better shape than it was before you got there. You know, so I think that was always somewhere in my mindset, that if I could leave it better than the next group, the next core group, they would try to make it better. Because if I inspire them, then they're inspired by me. They will do things that will inspire others. So for me, the whole move to college and going to UMass and going to a school different than, you know, the big time schools, the Michigans and North Carolinas and UCLA's of the world, or whatever. Because I graduated high school, I was pushing 6'4", less than 170 pounds. And even though I posted good numbers, I was a 25-point scorer, 17 rebound a night guy in high school. And we finished, and we were 17-2. And then first game of the county playoffs, we lost. So we ended up 17-3. And, you know, that was it for high school. That was it for high school competition. So the college competition was next. Freshmen weren't allowed to play varsity basketball. And I probably was able to compete with the varsity basketballers as, you know, the NCAA realized and started letting freshmen play. But we were 17-0. It's our freshman team. I remember the guys, we had a couple guys from New Jersey, John Bencourt, Mike Pagliara, Bill Kesgan, and then we had some Massachusetts guys. Can't remember the names right now, right off the top of my tongue. But, and then we had a couple Long Island guys, me and Rick Vogley. Rick Vogley went to Salonica. I played against him in high school. So we had two guys from Long Island, and we never lost a game. So maybe our coach had a lot to do with that, because he was, you know, he was like Vince Lombardi. he was a hard driving guy, Peter Broker, and Jack Lehman. When I became a player for Jack Lehman, I played varsity for the 2 seasons, and you know, he kind of kept the lid on things, because he played a very controlled game. But for whatever reason, I played a lot of minutes, and I was very productive, you know, in terms of points and rebounds. And, you know, in the last year, well, both years we got snubbed by the NCAA tournament. We went to the NIT in New York. And so that first year, I remember, I think we were 18-6, and then we were 22-2 because we played 24 games. And the NCAA didn't recognize Yankee Conference as automatic, and so I never got the big head associated with, you know, being a national champion. And but I did love the game, and I always wanted, you know, my own personal philosophy to apply. If I went somewhere and played, let it be better. Let it be better because I'm there. So that Olympic development experience happened in 1970 in preparation for the 72 games. So I got invited to the camp as an alternate. And, you know, this is chronicled in the book, as you know. You know, I go there. There are a lot of players there who I had heard about and never played against, who had much bigger names. And I went as an alternate. Next thing I know, they're fitting me for USA jacket to go over and represent the USA, and I'm on a team, with Paul Westball was one, and Joby Wright, Cyril Baptiste, these guys who went to big schools, Indiana, Creighton. Tom McMillan went to Maryland, whatever. I'm going on this team, and we played 13 games, and I'm the leading scorer and rebounder on the team, and we got 3 7-footers. So it was like, go figure. And I think coming back and playing my junior year in college, somebody out there said, I'm going to take a shot on, getting this kid, getting him to leave school early. And that had not been a big thing during that time. Only a few people had left school early. Spencer Haywood being the first, I believe. And then I became a part of a statistic in that regard, because I left after my junior year, started my pro career with the Virginia Squires.
NBA championships. And Julius, you changed the game. And, obviously as a player, when you're playing with flair and you can sense the crowd is enjoying it. But then as you grew into your pro career and you're soaring and flying, and the game became above the rim. And that's kind of a landmark deal in the history of our game in the early part of the 70s. And then the game had changed, basically. Not a lot of people can lay claim to anything like that in any sport. Do you see it that way, that you helped change the game of basketball?
Well, I'm not seeing the royalties per se, but but there's an undercurrent there in terms of people who are sports enthusiasts and who are knowledgeable like yourself and whatever, in terms of moments and things that were change agents in the sport and in every sport. Jim Brown changed football, and so I like to hear it discussed and hear my name put in the equation with Pete Maravich, and I think when they have that NBA at 50 poster, he and I are kind of like right next to each other, and and I look at it sometimes and I say, he definitely changed the game. I changed the game, and I think that's why we're together like that. It's just kind of like a special little thing that I have with Pete, because I liked him. I went to camp with the Atlanta Hawks when he was there, and just like with George Gervin in Virginia, he used to stay after practice and we play one-on-one, and we just had a good time getting to know one another and sharing our basketball styles and the things that we brought to the game that were, before perceived to be only done by the Globetrotters or done for show, as opposed to effect. And I looked at the win-loss record and I said, well, I might do things that are flashier and showy, but it's adding up in the win column, and the win column is way greater than the loss column. And, so that's how I view it.
When you talked about trying to leave the game in a better place, everybody looked at you, and still today, as this ambassador, this icon of basketball. But for a generation and a half, 10 or 15 years, the Michael Jordans, and then it went on to Michael, and we've gone through that with The Last Dance, and Kobe and LeBron. In other words, a whole slice of basketball dumb looked up to you. So when Jordan or people of that generation came up to you and, you intersected and you could feel that reverence, that must have been special. And then is the way you handled it makes it with the grace and the class and the charisma. Just speak to that whole dynamic about being that guy.
I think it's great when they look at you as being the godfather, so to speak, and I go back to my experience at UMass when Bill Russell came, and it was his. He just finished winning the NBA championship as a player coach for Boston. He retired, and he was a speaker. He was a speaker at UMass. So I'm 19 or 20, and he heard about me and asked me to meet up with him after his after my practice and after his speaking engagement, because I didn't hear him at a speaking engagement. And we met and we went to the student union, and we went in there. It was probably like 8:30, 9 o'clock. And when we left there, it was midnight, you know, and my life was changed forever. I mean, I sat and I listened to this man talk, and his wisdom and his sincerity. And there was an integrity about him extending the hand of friendship at that time that I had never experienced. And I wished and hoped that I could do that for somebody else. And fortunately, I was able to do it and still continue to do it with Bill. You know, call him on the phone, and, you know, the first thing he says, "What's up, Doc?" and we just take up where we left off. So it could be a week before, or it could be 3 months before, whatever. And he was that type of iconic figure, and I aspired to, you know, obviously couldn't win 11 championships, 13 years or whatever, but I could extend the hand of friendship, and did that to Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan and guys big and small like them, Terry Tyler, Quinn Buckner, you know, just guys who said, "Hey man, I'm here. If you ever need me, just give me a call." Grant Hill, just give me a call, just to say what's up. And you know, that there's a good feeling associated with that in terms of affecting a few different generations. Because now at 70, you know, 40 years past my prime on the court, maybe 45 years past my prime on the court. So there's been multiple generations of players who I've met in some capacity, and I tried to Bill Russell them and do to them what they did to me, what he did to me.
That's awesome, and you're great at that. And during your prime, you were an 11-time All-Star. And what I love too is you were 5-time first-team All-NBA. And of course, you did win that championship with the Sixers in 1983. But it was a long time coming, starting in the 77 finals when you played Portland, and then trying to get there. Just kind of walk us through that. I know that's a lot, but to finally achieve your goal after getting knocked down with a group that was primarily able to stay together, and then adding Moses to finally get you over the hump. But that's a rarity. You don't really find that as much anymore, where a team is able to, you know, take the steps and finally punch through. But you were at the peak of your powers with the MVP in 81, and just like I said, getting into that finals and winning in 83.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because you know, there's like 3 parts to my career. So there's the first 5 years, which are the ABA years, and there's the next 11 years, which is the, you know, quest, not the next 7 years, the quest for the championship, and then there's the 4 years, you know, afterwards, in which we weren't contenders, but, you know, we were competitive. We were like the spoilers, and that was an interesting time. So, but the 11 years with Philadelphia, so I look at that as the middle and the end of my basketball life. And the chase in those first 7 years, with going to 4 finals in 7 years, like you said, it doesn't always happen. And the team that we had the best record in the league the first year. We had George McGinnis, brother from another mother, and Doug Collins, and Henry Bibby, Joe Bryant, Kobe's dad, Henry Bibby, Mike Bibby's dad, and Harvey Catchins, Tamika Catchins' dad, and so we had some good genealogy on that team, and Gene Shue coached, right, you know, obviously that initial team, and we got all the way to the championship, won the first 2 games, and then lost the next 4 games. So that just kind of set the table for it can get worse or it can get better. And I think it got worse before it got better, because we had a void before we really got back to the championship. And that's when the team began to evolve, and the team began to change. And, you know, instead of Henry Bibby and Doug Collins, you know, we ended up with Maurice Cheeks and Andrew Toney as backcourt with Clint Richardson and Franklin Edwards as the other two guards leading up to the 73 team, or the 83 team. And so we ended up with a makeup with Billy Cunningham coming in and Chuck Daly and shaping and molding and trimming and cutting and from 77 to 80, 3-year window. 80 we got back, and Billy was in charge, and he had the championship experience from the 66, 67 team, and had infinite coaching wisdom, from playing for Dean Smith and the program in North Carolina, whatever, and so that's what he knew. And Chuck Daly was our X and O guy, and was a champion by all regards. So we had leadership on and off the court. I think we had the pedigree to be a champion, and we just needed that piece that came in '83, which was Big Mo, and Mo needed us. Mo needed us. He hadn't won any championships in either league, the ABA or the NBA, and he was a great, all-time great, and destined to be an all-time great with a 22-year career or whatever. But I think he needed us as much as we needed him, and we really needed him. And during that time, I like to think about, going 3 times in 6 years and becoming the runner-up. Does your window close? Is that it? And is that as good as it gets? Well, we've got a couple of ABA championships. You got NBA MVP, ABA multiple MVPs, and so on. So is that it? Is that my whole story? Because there would be a big void if NBA champion wasn't listed on that resume. And for some players, it doesn't get listed on the resume. So it's nothing that guarantees it. So I was very, very fortunate to get it in '83, because there wasn't going to be another shot at getting it unless we stayed intact, and we didn't stay intact because we traded Moses the next year to Washington for Jeff Ruland. Andrew went down, and the next 4 years it was just kind of like riding out the string, being a spoiler, being good enough to be a playoff team every year, but not really being good enough to be a champion. Did I lose Tom?
Yeah. Looks like we lost him for a second there.
Yeah.
Let's see if he'll get back in.
I think I was making him cry.
There he comes.
Oh, there he is.
There we go.
Was that me?
We lost you for a minute, for a second.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, it locked up.
We got you now.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. So when you guys win the championship, and I know and you've lost some of your brothers from those years, Moses, but when you fly back from Los Angeles and you land in Philadelphia, and just the memories of the parade, of being at Veterans Stadium, of going down Broad Street, the joy that you delivered after promising to a city that, we owe you one, and finally being the champion. I would imagine that was like a magic carpet ride.
It was a magic carpet ride, Tom. It was so special. Friends and family in tow, riding down the streets of Philadelphia to the stadium just to enjoy the moment and celebrate that moment. There was a lot of social unrest going on in Philadelphia during that time, with the MOVE group and the elections, being rigged and so much going on. So I think the championship brought the city together and averted something very, very bad, very, very bad thing that could have happened, because Philadelphia was, ready to explode during that time. And I think the team definitely brought people together and created a oneness of mind and spirit, and created a movement going forward that helped get over that hump.
You are a hugger. And at this time, we're, elbow tappers, like, and you're, like I said, you've been an ambassador for basketball for the Sixers.
Yeah.
Coming back here to Philadelphia, this is going to change things a little bit. You're not going to be able to, at least for now anyway, dole out autographs or say hello to people the way you've always done it.
Yeah, it's a nice break. It's a nice break because sometimes I feel like I'm signing my life away. And go to these shows and you sign like 2, 3, 4,000 autographs, and I've always been good about it. And obviously, it's a business piece to it now with Fanatics and the different companies that are in it to win it. So right now it's been a break, and ironically, I tripped on some steps with flip-flops on, and I hit my elbow, so my bursa sac had burst. It's swollen, and it's like a knot on the end of my elbow. So I'm not even giving people elbows right now, not with this one.
Right.
But yeah, it's a different time, and the meaning of your question is really about the contact with people, the physical contact with people, the getting in your face, the one-on-one conversations. And now here's how we're doing it. We're doing it virtually, with Zoom and other apparatuses, FaceTime. And the older people have to get used to using the technology and embracing the technology, because there's a new normal coming, and it might be like this forever in terms of certain types of communication. I mean, I don't want to go anywhere near a hospital or an emergency room, whatever, but you still might need some medical attention and whatever, and they have to do it like this. And it's amazing. And one of the other things we're doing is, watching a lot of TV. I'm watching a lot of channels that I never watched before.
Right.
And I'm seeing all these documentaries on pandemics and all these fictional movies about what could happen, and this is really happening. So there's a bunch of movies on there. It's a whole category, and I just missed them over the years.
Yeah, who knew?
I see it now, and I'm seeing them now, and they're eye-opening.
We'll close with this, provided basketball does return in the form that's being reported. The Sixers are healthy. Everyone says they're built for the playoffs. We close with you talking basketball about the Philadelphia 76ers. What do you think the chances are for this current group, provided the NBA resumes play?
Well, I mean, I like what we have. I think that, we got the positions covered. We got depth. And so now it's, to the aggressor goes the spoils. We have to initiate, instigate, and really go after it. Like, can't wait for teams to make mistakes. You have to force teams into making mistakes. And it's kind of like a coup de grace, one for all and all for one, or whatever. Stop fooling around with this thing. It's not something that's going to be given to you.
Right.
Other teams want it as much, and if there's any team out there that wants it more, then you have to adjust and want it more than they do. So I think know who your enemy is, know who your opponents are, and be the aggressor. I think aggressiveness will pay dividends for our team, and I think if we got a center in foul trouble, if Joe gets in foul trouble, we got backup. You got backup guys. You got backup guys at every position. Al could be the starting center. They could flip-flop roles. As much grief as Al has given us when he was in Boston, we want that Al to show up, not just. And he usually shows up at playoff time or whatever. So Tobias is great and keep things level in terms of team and distribution and whatever. And Ben's a phenomenal. He's a prodigy. I think he's known winning all of his life, and he's come the most direct route to pro basketball than anybody. from the time he started playing, and I saw the documentary. You know, the team he started playing basketball, he's come directly to this stage and this platform and whatever. So I think he's ready for it, and you know, I like our chances.
Well, I so much appreciate your time. I can't wait till we're able to get back and be in more normal situation, if you will.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself. Thank you, Dr. J.
All right, you take care.
Okay.
See you, Tommy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.